Atlanta United Fan TV. It was a 1-0 loss to New York Red Bull, who, scored very promptly, very early. And, we couldn't muster up anything in the back of the net, even though we had our chances. Was, pretty rough of a watch overall. But, I mean, at the end of the day, can we kind of hang our hat that, it didn't all look completely distorted in that, we had some decent chances?
I'd say so, and I'd say that there's a few positives here that are very good positives. First and foremost, Guzan is on top of his game. I think there were 2 or 3 chances. I mean, we all saw the game, so there's definitely 3 chances, but I think there were 2 of them that he just basically had no business saving, and those 2 that he kept out at that point could have had he let them in, that would have really just opened the floodgates, and that we would have gotten the result that I think that our play deserved in the first half. And I also think that from a movement standpoint, I think from the 73rd minute on, we really did well to get in behind them, and maybe that was in part due to New York cramping and having some tired legs, but we did. Lennon as one of them. He was getting in behind fairly frequently, and PT was finding a lot of space in his free roll. I really liked how he played from that back third of the game. And so I think that there were definitely a few things that we could take, away from this, saying like, hey, it's not all bad. John looks like he can come in and, play play a late goal scorer if need be. I think that, if our game plan is to just pummel the opposition with crosses, I think utilizing Jean instead of a false 9 probably would be the best way to go.
Right. Now, definitely, there were some perplexing maybe lineup decisions from the off. You have Barco, a big omission. You have Rbny, maybe a big omission for some. Was it something that you wanted to see maybe Barco come on earlier, or maybe Rbny play from the start? I mean, talk us through maybe why you think Frank de Boer went with his lineup decision.
I think a lot of it had to do with the. Sorry, I think a lot of it had to do with the knock that he reportedly got in practice. But if it were me, I think the water break intervals would have been the perfect time to make that change. I think the first, just to be honest, the first quarter of that match was just awful by us. There was nothing. I think that I could really pick out that would have been a positive. The defense looked like they were in shambles. Nobody tracking back, and you needed to do something to keep the Red Bulls press at bay. And somebody like Barco, early on would have done that. I think that the way he dribbles, the way he kind of puts people on skates, it would have kept their midfield a little deeper, and it would have given us a little bit of a break that we needed, because we were still trying to find our legs. Everybody except for Guzan was trying to find their legs in the up until maybe the 60th minute. And if Barco wasn't fit to play 90, I would have played him from water break to water break and called it at that point. And I would have started Rbny. I don't know why. I know that. He came on very late, but I would have started him. I think that without Nagby, you need to have some carryover from the United teams that have typically dominated midfield in the past, and Rbny is one of those figures. So yeah, I would have made changes a lot earlier than Frank did, but I'm not the coach either, so it's easy for me to say, seeing how the game, played out. But, for me, if Barco's not fit to play 90, I'd play him during the crunch time, when New York was less compressed, because they were very compressed at the very end when Barco featured heavily. And, that time from the first water break when they were still hoping that they could get a second goal, I would have started playing him from that point on.
Yeah, and so it seems like the player who's wearing number 9 was playing as a false 9, Mateus Husetu, and maybe wasn't able to get in the game as much as we all would have liked. And it seems like he's a guy that might have been a Darlington Nagby kind of successor, perhaps, but he wasn't playing in that role. He's a guy that seems like could kind of be that ball carrier and really kind of skirt tackles and carry the ball forward. But we just didn't have that. It seemed like our kind of lines were very disjointed. Did it not?
I Again, it's easy for me to say because I watched the entire game and I'm making a decision now, but I'm sure that the board saw something in practice that made him go with the false 9 rather than you know rather than playing to the strengths of the players that he had available, which is what I would have done in the very first game back after 4 months. I would have literally played the striker as a striker. I would have played, I would have given PT somewhere in between the role he started and the role he ended at, and I would have definitely played Uzetu in the middle. I wouldn't have put him up top because he was pretty anonymous up top. And if you're thinking of playing Castro up top too, then you need him taking like 50 shots after every practice, because there were a ton of shots that had we had a Joseph or even a Gressel, we probably would have tied that 1-1 before Barco even came on. So I think that the lineup didn't really help matters. We were disjointed, certainly. I think that our defense, really struggled because, there was just, I think, a lack of communication. I think Bello did well going forward after the goal, but I think that for tracking back throughout the entire game, I think that he was. I'm not sure that he's one. Just based again, and this is just based on what I just saw tonight. After him being gone for so long, I'm not sure he's fit yet to be the kind of person to play against a team like the Red Bulls, who are going to press and who are going to exploit the spaces they see. I think he's somebody that we play, early on, build him up when we are planning to have more possession, which tonight wasn't that night.
Right. Yeah. I mean, especially how direct they are after they get the ball. They don't mess about, so it's definitely something that having the young kid. I mean, it's good experience in a sense. Having let him play it against a team that presses so tough. But
Yeah.
I mean, was it surprising to you that they pressed? Seeing that Chris Armas has tried in the past to get his team to try to play out of the back, but did they just try to simplify things? Because also, their way of playing might be really, really good in a tournament, type of play, and it's could be really beneficial for a team like them that plays in their fashion.
I agree with that. I think that simplifying things is probably the best way to go and approach this tournament. Again, you've been off for a long time. People have been sick, or their minds haven't been on the game, and so you have to make it easy for them. You don't want to make it complex by playing a false 9 for that respect. You also have to look at it from a standpoint of the way New York has always kind of approached us, and they very much played. I think that the way they're playing it kind of reminds me of how Greece played. Back in the early 2000s, during the Euros, when they had some success there. I think it's a very smart thing to do when you're not going to have everybody being match fit. The other team's not going to be match fit. You basically you're going to press them into making a mistake, play direct, try to get a goal, and then try to hold off a comeback and counter when you can. And that's generally the best way to going down the flanks, working into Kaku, and then using his vision to basically just shred a back line that is tonight was at least ill-equipped. It's very smart, and I think that they could. Sadly, I think they could go far in this tournament.
Yeah. Are you confident that Atl United can put a better performance and a better result in the next match?
Against FC Cincinnati, yes. But
Is it a must win for you?
if I think so. I mean, I look at this as it's not just a confidence builder, but it's also you've been away for a long time. You don't want to have to wait to get used to winning again. It's I think that it's very important to get a win early, stamp that out. I think it'll soothe a lot of things over, and a lot of times a win will validate what the coach is saying, and you'll get a lot more. You'll get a lot more
People buying in.
Yeah, you'll get buy-in a little bit better, and you'll also be able to, take that extra sprint. I think, which I think a lot of the team was missing that towards the end. I think Pity was the only one who really grew into the game as it got on. Everybody else's levels just kind of dropped. Lennon maybe too. He was. I think that he did really well towards the end too, and so I think that getting a win against FC Cincinnati and just convincing is a good word to use, but it's also kind of ambiguous. But like a solid defensive performance, chances created, enough chances finished or at least put on target to where we're not questioning like why is Jensen not made any saves up until like the 97th minute just about when he had to stop that equalizer from John. We just need to put in a more convincing performance and get to 3 points.
Yeah. Well, appreciate your time, Chris. For those of you that don't know, Chris is our tweeter on match days. So much love and thanks to Chris because he is, a godsend to Atl Utd Fan TV. But anyway, so thank you very much, and we'll chat with you later.